been curious as to why people regard any sort of pain as bad. Pain is just pain.
Mm-hmm.
If there weren't an evaluation of whether it's good or bad, it's like a cut on my hand. It hurts, but I'm not saying a cut on my hand is bad. It just hurts. If it's just pain for pain's sake, like a toothache, or there's no judgment, so there's no shame in having a cut on my hand, I can deal with it. But if there's somehow an interpretation that a cut on my hand means something, I think that's where people get stuck. Can you imagine a world, David, if people could be in their pain of whatever, and it's just pain? It would be easier to move through because there'd be the curiosity of, I wonder how that cut got there. Without all this fraught with meaning of why were you cut to begin with? Or it occurred to me that the shame is what makes any pain almost unbearable and difficult to release. Because we're all gonna have pain. We get sick.
If we have a shame viewpoint of pain, which says something's wrong, let's get rid of it, that could be useful. I had an infection in my mouth recently. I got an antibiotic. I'm glad I did that. I wanted to make that infection go away so that something worse didn't happen, so that pain would go away. So great. That is intelligent and makes sense, and sometimes that's exactly the right medicine. But if shame is the only viewpoint, something is wrong with you, we should get rid of that, particularly when it comes to psychology, then we don't ask certain questions. Here's one of the most fundamental questions that we don't ask of pain. It's so obvious, but so fundamentally missing. If you say, I'm really hurting, David, I would say, tell me about what your pain is like.
Tell me, to us, this would be such a common sense question, but how did it not get translated into the Dr. Phil's of the world or standard therapy, where it would be more like, well, we need to fix that? Tell me where the disconnect happened, because you have a therapy background, you understand how the field developed, that any sort of pain is something to be removed. Or I didn't come from a therapy background, I came from a spiritual inquiry background, so I've always been curious how pain got pathologized or something.
Western psychology and much of healing ideas, not only in the West, many Eastern ideas also, have the notion that is somewhat, I'm going to call it allopathic. That means if you're supposed to have a 98.6 Fahrenheit, now they're changing that a little bit, and you have 100, then I should try to get it closer to normal. So we're trying to normalize and
the bell curve, meaning everyone should be
you in there. It can be helpful to know what a normative view is. Think about it this way. Normative views are specifically anti-diversity. It doesn't say that the range is interesting, and maybe the people who are furthest out are really also interesting. How do we hold that particular person? It says, let's assimilate you as well. So even internally, psychology and medicine is normative. So as I say, if you start acting too much in one way, then I think let's balance you and stabilize you. That can be very necessary. And then we miss the potential message. Because if you say, I'm in pain, then I might ask you about your pain and get to know it. I'd say, can you make a sound? Tell me about it. Let me get to know this thing that I have no idea about it. And you might scream, you might wince, you might cry, you might curl up in protection, you might scream out in fury, you might cry out for the world to hear you. Just think of those three are very different. If you're curling up like this, I think that's a person who's needing more protection, their pain is telling me. If you're screaming out in fury, I think that's a person who's got a fist. Maybe she needs to give the world a good shot with her voice. And if you're crying out for the world to hear you, I think maybe you're an activist, maybe you're a voice for the earth who wants to speak. All those don't happen if I'm trying to make it go away.